everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Sportsbook Confidential. My name is John Sullivan. I'm coming to you live from the FingerLakes1.com studios in Seneca Falls, New York. And this little show here is to help you learn and grow as a sports bettor. And it's the hot middle dog days of summer. And very interesting times here locally. We have the Sportsbooks opening in New York. The Rivers Casino in Schenectady officially opened their sportsbook this week. The Tioga Downs, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, down near Binghamton, soft launched theirs. Their official opening date is August 1st, but they're open now. And the Turning Stone properties, the Turning Stone Casino, which are Native American properties, and the Point Place and the Yellow Brick Road casinos, which are on the east of Syracuse, are all opening on August 1st. We still don't have any word from the Del Lago here in Waterloo about opening up, but we assume it will be shortly before football starts here. They want to get their feet wet, so hoping for the best. On today's program, we're going to talk AFC West, doing our NFL previews. We did the NFC West last week, and I'll give you my little spin on what's going on and the odds associated with each team. We're going to do Friday Night Baseball. I always give you my models picks and model-based picks, and then we're going to do Week 6 of the CFL. And one more week, and the CFL's maybe, a third of the season is over. It's pretty incredible. So let's get started, as we always do, by updating my bankroll. And as you can see, my starting bankroll from last week was $642. We had 5 plays, another winning week, 3-2. And we had the Mets over on Friday night, and that was a winner for plus $20 to the bankroll. We had the Dodgers that lost. The Dodgers have not been very good to me this year. They're one of the best teams in baseball, but I always seem to get them on their losing nights. Minus 21. And we had the Braves, who also won on the money line. That was plus $20 for us. And then we had the Argonauts, who had a chance to backdoor cover this game. They had first and goal at the 1 with 3 minutes left, and they could not put it in. They ended up losing by 20-plus points. But at that point, it would have made it, I believe, a 10-point game. So that was a loss. And then the Red Blacks over came through pretty handily for us on Saturday, and that was plus $20. If you do the math, that's about an $18 profit, and therefore our new bankroll is $660, going up in the right direction, and dividing by 30 as we always do, because we're selective sports bettors. Our new bet size will be $22 going forward. So another good week for the bankroll. Hopefully we can fatten it up before NFL starts and take advantage of larger size bets. So for those of you NFL fans that don't know the divisions, I quickly point out here that the teams we're talking about today, the AFC West, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Los Angeles Chargers that used to be in San Diego, the Denver Broncos, and the Oakland Raiders, which are slated to move to Las Vegas next year. And very interesting division, because there's 2 teams that are expected to be playoff and Super Bowl contenders, and 2 teams that definitely aren't. So let's start with the Kansas City Chiefs. And we have regular season wins for the Kansas City. I do want to point out, I said this last week, that I usually like to bet on a team not to win the division or the conference, but to win the Super Bowl. I also want to point out that the odds for the AFC West have been up and down the last couple of days. When I say that, I mean they've been on the sportsbook page and off the sports. They've been taken down off the page, so you couldn't bet on them. So they have been adjusting them. So I got the last set of odds that I had confidence in that were accurate, and they may change over time. So we have regular season wins over under 10.5. To win the AFC West, minus 160, they're the favorite. To win the AFC, 387, I think they're either the first favorite or the second favorite. And to win the Super Bowl, plus 796 or about 8-1. Now, Kansas City has Pat Mahomes, who was just an amazing quarterback in his first full season. He did not win the most passing yards. That went to Roethlisberger, but he did sit out a game at the end of the season, which would have easily given him the crown, over 5,000 passing yards. They have good receivers. They have a good running game and a good return game with Tyreek Hill. Now, I was going to put that down as one of their issues because he was possibly going to be suspended for a domestic issue, and it was just announced this morning that he was not going to receive disciplinary action. So their return man, Tyreek Hill, and he's also one of their wide receivers, is in the fold. So for issues, I have obviously depth and special teams. Now, they have, an all-pro quality quarterback, all-pro quality running back, all-pro quality wide receiver, all-pro quality tight end. But behind that is the real question. If one of these key skill positions goes down, what is behind that? And at this point, we don't really know. We got to wait for training camp, see how the roster shakes out, see what happens with this team. And the other issue is special teams. Now, again, that Tyreek Hill has a lot to do with that. He's not going to be suspended now, but it's more. The special teams issue is kind of more with Andy Reid, the coach of the Chiefs, and the kicking game. Not as much the return game. The return game should be pretty good, but. You need to have, like I said, elite kicker. For those of you that watched last week, not to change topics, but Robbie Gould did sign with the 49ers. That was kind of a surprise to me, but they have their elite kicker in the fold now. And Butker, I think, Harrison Butker is the kicker for the Chiefs. I can't remember. But I do remember that they had a couple of missed kicks in the playoffs that were very important to them. So something to think about. But this team is obviously one of the favorites to win the Super Bowl. You have to lump them in with the Rams, maybe the Saints, maybe the Patriots. There are not too many teams of this caliber in the league. So once again, 160 is not a bad number if you want to sit on your money for 12 to 16 weeks. It's not a bad number to bet the Chiefs to win the division. However, this is the one team of the heavy favorites that I think will have challenge in the division. And that challenge is coming from the Los Angeles Chargers, who we will talk about right now. The regular season win total for them, you can see instead of 10.5, it's 9.5. And to win the AFC West, plus 185, that's actually pretty good odds. To win the AFC, about 8-1, at plus 769. And to win the Super Bowl, 14-1. Again, those are very good odds. So I have issues. You've got, Phillip Rivers, Old Man Rivers for the Chargers, who continues to excel as an, I dare I say, elite quarterback in the league. He definitely has kept his longevity for playing in a really good climate. I believe. I mean, he has to go to Denver once a year, but other than that, he doesn't play too many cold weather games in his career. But he has shown no signs of losing arm strength. He's never been a really mobile guy, but I think he's a quarterback that could take you all the way. He's never been to the big game, but he knows what it takes. So for issues, I have receiving and kicking, and they have good receivers. I would argue the running game could be an issue if Melvin Gordon decides to sit out. I'm not sure where that contract situation is right now. He signed for another year, but he wants an extension. He wants to be paid now. I feel like his last injury was kind of a scare, and he feels like he's risking too much. Don't know what's going to happen with that, but he is definitely a piece of their puzzle. They did have a couple of other backs to share the load they had one kind of scat back that was a Darren Sproles type, Eckler, I think his name was, and they have some depth at the running game, but the receivers are kind of aging out, and Keenan Allen. You wonder if there's any depth there. It's not. I don't think it's going to be hard for San Diego to come up with one or two new quality options at receiver. But you had Antonio Gates come back for another year last year, and he's since retired. But Hunter Henry has not been able to stay healthy. A tight end is a big part of their game. It's the depth at the receiving is something that really concerns me because all of their key receivers have suffered injuries, this is the team that I don't think can rely on a running game to win. So they're great when they have a lead because that running game really picks up. And of course, for those of you that have bet on NFL before, you know that the Los Angeles Chargers have kicking issues. They have been through a baker's dozen. I say that jokingly, of kickers in the last couple of years and missed so many important field goals. And those have real cause and effect. Missing those field goals means you're going on the road in the playoffs instead of being at home in the playoffs, and that makes a huge difference sometimes in your chances of trying to win a championship. So like I've always said, you need an elite kicker to win a championship, and San Diego still does not have one. Moving on to our next AFC West team is the Denver Broncos. As Homer Simpson would say, the Denver Broncos. Regular season wins over under 7 wins. That is pretty appropriate. I would lean over here if you're getting good odds. It comes down to Joe Flacco here, who was signed to be the Denver Broncos quarterback. If you think he has another elite year in him, then these odds will look very juicy to you. To win the AFC West, 11.6 to 1. To win the AFC, 45 and change to 1. To win the Super Bowl, 95 and change to 1. This is a team that I think it has too much competition within its own division to really get a decent playoff seed and have a shot at a world title. You could see them maybe getting a wild card somehow. They have good running back. They have decent receivers. But I'm going to put down the issues for this team as quarterback, obviously. Is Joe Flacco elite? We'll be asking ourselves that question all year. And I put down secondary. I want to say depth in the defense. The defense is still elite. I feel like they gave up a lot more points last year off of passing than they have in the past. So I don't know if that's really more of a lack of pass rush or secondary issues, but I put down secondary on the page, but I think it's defensive depth is their other big concern. So it'll be imperative for them to stay healthy on that side of the ball. And then finally, we have the Oakland Raiders. And the regular season win total over under 6. This is a team that is either going to be a massive surprise in the NFL this year or a massive failure. You can see the current odds to win the AFC West about 14 to 1. To win the AFC 45, almost 46 to 1. And to win the Super Bowl almost 112 to 1. and I have issues. Defense, obviously they traded Khalil Mack last year. I don't really know what that was all about. They gave up a lot of points last year. They were in some games. They were in high-scoring games. And then Derek Carr, either, he got hurt a little bit, and I don't think he was 100% when he did play in the second half of the season. And then the other issue I have is turmoil. This team is just, from top to bottom, from the top of the front office to the towel collectors, is in turmoil. They haven't figured out how to have a happy goodbye with Oakland. They haven't settled their stadium deal in Las Vegas. They have a huge turnover of their roster this year, so you don't really know what to expect. I really don't know what to expect. I expect that they will surprise some people. I think this is a team that when they play their division opponents for the second time, when they play the Chargers, the Broncos, and the Chiefs in the second matchup of the year, will probably be very competitive, that they will figure out how to be competitive. But I think it's going to be too late for this team. This team could go it could literally be 1-15, and it could be 10-6. I don't know. The problem for them is if they did end up 10-6 in their division, they might not even make the playoffs because of the teams that they're up against. So it's really tough to bet the over-under on regular season wins here. Not very much that I like about this team. And if anybody on this team turns out to be any good, the other teams are going to want to trade for them. And it seems like the Raiders are just willing to not rebuild until they move. And that concerns me because they think they're going to get a honeymoon period in Vegas. Vegas is going to have expectations after what happened with the Golden Knights. So we'll see what happens. But that's my AFC West preview. Hope you found some of that helpful. As you know, I'm not doing it from a fantasy perspective. I'm not going position by position. There's just way too many variables at this point in the summer. And next week we'll have another division, and I'll have some more takes for you and some more odds. But let's move on to the meat of the show. And Friday night, Major League Baseball. And as always, I crunch my model for the Friday games, and I'll give you my projected favorites in each game and see if we can't find some value for you to wager on. And I'll have my own personal picks at the end of the show. So let's get started with Padres plus 155 at the Cubs. Cubs favored by 0.91 runs, minus 168. That's actually a fair number for that type of favorite. Padres are on a road. They're grinding out a road trip right now. Some fatigue probably setting in. So we'll see where those odds end up, but not the best value on the board. Phillies minus 106 at Pirates, 0.04 run favorite, minus 102. As we've said many times, this game is a virtual and literal coin flip. The odds are almost exactly equal, and the model says this is a toss-up game. So as you will there. Cardinals minus 105 at Reds, 0.84 run favorites, minus 103. Well, there you go. My model really likes the Reds. Doesn't seem to like Adam Wainwright for whatever reason. But that's insane value according to my model, minus 103, and favored by almost a run. Nationals, 0.67 run favorites, minus 121 at the Braves, plus 112. Again, a very fair price for a favorite. May not be the best value on the board, but we'll keep an eye on that one. Brewers minus 132 at Diamondbacks, plus 122, favored by 0.31 runs. These teams are pretty evenly matched. The model likes the Diamondbacks. I think the odds are very fair for them. So we're going to keep an eye on that one too. We got a lot of heavy favorites today. Let's look. You got the Marlins plus 275 at the Dodgers, minus 2.1 run favorites, minus 305. There's absolutely no value in betting the Dodgers here. As I always say, if the odds get up to over 250, like 275, 300, if the team getting those odds is complete and their regular starting pitcher and their regular starters are in the lineup, always worth a bite if you like to bet long shots. You just have to, accept the fact that those bets are only expected to win one out of every 3 to 4 times, if that. So, but potential for the payout is higher than the probability. So it's a good bet. It's a smart bet if you're getting the proper personnel in there. Mets, it's DeGrom day for the Mets, minus 170 at the Giants. I have the Giants favored by 0.3 runs and plus 156. Those are insane odds for my model. My model is screaming bet this game. So the Giants have really, ramped up the offense lately in their last, this month. And the Mets score in bunches, but they have real droughts. So it will be interesting to see how that one plays out tonight. And then we have the Red Sox favored by 1.5 runs, minus 246 at the Orioles, plus 224. Orioles have been playing decent ball lately, considering how bad they were projected to be. But it's put up or shut up time for the Red Sox. They need some wins. They got to stay in that wild card race. And we've got more Major League Baseball for you. We've got the Blue Jays, 0.09 favorites by my model, minus 162 at the Tigers, plus 149. My model would say you want to take the Tigers here. This is almost a coin flip. And my head says stay away from this game altogether. White Sox, plus 207 at the Rays, 2.25 run favorites, minus 226. White Sox, they can score runs. There's a team that can put up offense. It really depends on who they're facing today. I didn't look at the pitching matchup for this game. It is Rodrigo Lopez and McKay for the Rays. I would pretty much just stay away from that one. And also the Royals, plus 263 at the Indians, 2.13, minus 290. The Indians are red hot. I just, again, that's one of those games where if you want to bet a long shot and the Royals lineup comes out and it looks like all their heavy hitters are playing, you can take a shot at it. But the way the Indians have been playing, it's just a pass for me. A's, 0.04 run favorites, plus 116 at the Twins. So the model would say take the A's here. I feel like there's better value on the board. The A's have played really well, and the Twins have really struggled this month, and they really need some wins because the AL Central is slipping away from them. Rangers, plus 194 at the Astros, 2.5 run favorites, minus 212. You could actually bet, the Astros minus 2.5 runs. They do offer those at some sports books. What they call alternate run lines. Not something I would do. It's just so much. You have such a higher probability of winning a game on the money line, and in baseball, it's easy to find plus 140, plus 150 on the money line where the team has a legit chance to win the game. Even though the Astros are heavy favorites, So if you bet the minus 212 there, you're betting one unit to win less than half a unit. And for me, that's just not enough value. Angels, 0.01 run favorites, minus 127 at the Mariners, plus 117. So my model says take the Mariners in that game. Basically a coin flip there, and you're getting the better odds. I do feel Angels pulled Pujols the other night. He may have an injury. They're still, short a pitcher after Skaggs passed away. So you wonder how long they'll be able to keep it up. But when you have Mike Trout, you never know. And finally, the Rockies, plus 195 at the Yankees. Yankees, 2.74 run favorites, minus 213. Same deal with the Astros and the Yankees. They're heavy favorites to win, but the odds just don't pay enough to make it a worthwhile bet, in my opinion. So that's baseball for today, and we're going to move right along and try to tie this all up together. So let's go on to some Canadian football, my favorite thing, and I'm having a very rough year, by the way. Probably my worst start ever. So we've hit week 6, and we've got 20 weeks in the regular season, so Next week will be about a third of the way through. We have on Friday night the Red Blacks at the Blue Bombers. Blue Bombers clearly the number one team in the CFL right now. They have the offense that can score, I would say, the lightning strike offense of the league, because basically all of their starters are intact. Several teams have lost their starting quarterbacks already. So they have, obviously Lucky Whitehead, who's one of the fastest players in the league. They have him on returns. They have him in the backfield, sometimes at wide receiver. He's like a Brandon Banks type of player. He has scored several touchdowns already. Bombers minus 11 is not really a bad play because the Red Blacks are starting Jonathan Jennings, who's the backup. Dominique Davis, who's been their starter, was slightly injured last week. I think he's on the one game, but he's not starting tonight. 52 is the total. I like the over in that game. But, boy, it's, any higher than that, I would say no. But the Bombers could score points. They could put up 28 points. And last week they scored on the opening kickoff. And then after the first series, the other team punted to them and they brought it back to the 4-yard line. It was 14-0 2 minutes into the game. And that kind of offense can really, add up points quickly. Saturday we have the Eskimos at the Alouettes. Alouettes +6 and 54. The Alouettes fired their GM this week. Apparently he was doing some salary cap shenanigans, and somebody might have so one of the players might have actually had some kind of blackmail material on him to keep him on the roster. That's just a rumor, nothing substantiated, of course. But the front office, the team was sold. The front office is totally shaken up, but they've kept the coach and the roster intact, minus one or two players, and they have been playing very well. And I actually like the Alouettes in this game. The Eskimos and the Bombers are the two best offensive teams in the league. Alouettes have a good defense. I like the under in this game. I would like to see it go to like 56 or 57, but that's Saturday afternoon. And Eskimos, Trevor Harris cannot keep up. He has a near-perfect quarterback rating. I think he has one interception, maybe two on the season. He had just almost a perfect quarterback rating through the first 4 or 5 weeks. And he's not that good of a quarterback. They're having a good season. But it's going to come back to earth. So I think this is a real good spot for the Alouettes. They could actually make themselves a player in the Eastern Division. If they win this game, they'll be over 500. And the last time I looked, the odds on the Owls were like 13-1, something like that, to win the Grey Cup. I think they were 20-1 at the beginning of the season, but they were down to 12, 13-1. So if you're into future bets, you can bet on them to win the Grey Cup. And, again, if they get to the conference finals or the Grey Cup itself, you can always hedge by betting on the other team. And then finally, we have the BC Lions at the Rough Riders on Saturday night. Rough Riders -5, 50. The BC Lions have been fool's gold for me. I've bet them 3 times this year and been burned every time. I'm not going to bet them this week, but I think it's a really good spot for them to win. They were like plus 170 something on the money line. This is going to be a competitive game. The over is a big play for me here. 50 points, a median CFL score is 51 points. So even if these teams do not score a lot of extra points, they're still likely going to go over the 50. So that is going to do it. Another good week of football to watch if you've got nothing else going on and you want to sit at home in your air conditioning. So let's wrap it up with my picks. And we've got the Reds money line, -103. Reds at home tonight. Diamondbacks at home also, money line, +119. The Giants, money line, +157 against the Mets. The Alouettes, +6 on Saturday, -110. And then Saturday night, the BC Lions and the Riders, over 50, -105. That should be a real good game. Should be a competitive game. I'm looking forward to watching that. That's going to do it for me this week. I hope everybody stays cool. Hopefully we'll get another winning week to add to the bankroll. We'll be back with another preview next week and maybe some more news about our local sportsbook opening up. But until then, I'm going to play the outro music for you. So let's get some winners. Thanks, everybody. Take care.